They called it a police action. That's what I remember thinking when they told us we were going to Korea. Summer of 1951. Not a war, a police action. Made it sound simple, clean. Like we were just going over there to keep the peace, straighten things out, come home by Christmas. Nobody told us about the hills. Nobody told us we'd be fighting over the same goddamn ridge lines for months, taking them and losing them and taking them again, watching boys die for high ground that didn't have names, just numbers. Hill 931, Hill 851, Hill 894, just coordinates on a map that we'd water with blood. Nobody told us it would be worse than the stories our fathers told about World War II. Corporal James Sullivan from Southside Chicago. 21 years old when I shipped out to Korea. Irish kid, working class, figured I'd work in the stockyards like my old man. Then the draft notice came in 50. Basic training at Fort Benning. Then they shipped us to Korea as replacements for the 2nd Infantry Division. The division had been chewed up during the Chinese offensive that winter, lost thousands of men. They needed bodies to fill the ranks. That's what we were, replacements, warm bodies to feed into the meat grinder. I arrived in country in July 1951. The war had been going for over a year. The big advances were over. Incheon, the drive north, the Chinese intervention, the retreat south. Now it was static. Trench warfare like World War I. Both sides dug in along a line that barely moved, fighting over hills and ridges that didn't matter to anyone except the poor bastards dying for them. They assigned me to Easy Company, 23rd Infantry Regiment, what was left of it. The company was supposed to have about 200 men. We had maybe 120. The rest were casualties, rotating out or just gone. The faces changed constantly. You'd learn a guy's name one week, he'd be dead or wounded the next, replaced by another scared kid who'd be gone just as fast. My squad leader was Sergeant Ray Martinez from Texas. Tough guy, been in Korea since the beginning. Survived the Pusan perimeter, the breakout, the Chinese offensive. He'd seen it all. Looked about 50 years old, but was probably 30. Keep your head down, stay alert, do what I tell you, he told me on my first day. You might make it home. Might not will. The other guys in the squad were a mix. Private Danny O'Brien from Boston, 18 years old, always joking around to hide the fear. Private Marcus Washington from Alabama, quiet guy, steady. Private Tommy Chen from San Francisco, Chinese-American, which made things complicated given who we were fighting. Corporal Eddie Kowalski from Detroit, been there 3 months, which made him a veteran. Private Billy Thompson from Oklahoma, farm boy, homesick, good guys. Most of them. Some I never got to know well enough before they were gone. We spent August doing patrols, holding positions, taking small arms fire and mortar rounds, routine stuff. Miserable, hot, wet, muddy, boring, punctuated by moments of terror, but manageable. Then they told us about Heartbreak Ridge. September 13th, 1951. That's when it started. They told us we were going to take a ridge line the North Koreans held. Strategic position, they said, overlooks the valley. We take it, we control the area. The ridge didn't have a name then, just Hill 931 and the connected peaks. It would get a name soon enough. We moved out before dawn. The approach was rough, steep slopes, rocky terrain, no cover. The North Koreans held the high ground, dug in deep. Bunkers and trenches and tunnels they'd been building for months. They could see us coming from miles away. The artillery prep was supposed to soften them up. Hundreds of rounds hitting the ridge, explosions lighting up the mountainside. Looked impressive. Probably didn't kill many of them. They were too deep, too well protected. Fix bayonets, Martinez ordered as we got close. That's when I knew it was going to be bad. You don't fix bayonets unless you're expecting close combat, hand to hand, the kind of fighting where you're too close to shoot. We started up the ridge at 0600. Steep climb, full gear, August heat, even though it was September. Within minutes, I was soaked with sweat, breathing hard, legs burning. And we weren't even under fire yet. Then the mortars started. The North Koreans had pre-registered every approach. They knew exactly where we'd be. The shells started falling, walking up and down the slope, searching for us. Men went down screaming. Others just disappeared in the blasts. "Keep moving," Martinez was yelling. "Don't bunch up. Keep moving." We kept climbing. The machine guns opened up. That distinctive sound, different from our guns. Chinese-made, probably. Rounds snapping past, kicking up dirt and rock. O'Brien went down next to me, shot through the leg, started screaming. "Medic!" I yelled, kept climbing, had to. "Stop on that slope and you die." We made it to the first trench line. North Korean soldiers everywhere, firing from bunkers and fighting positions. Close quarters combat, grenades, rifles, bayonets. Pure chaos. I shot a man at maybe 5 feet, watched him fall back into his trench. Didn't feel anything. No time to feel anything. We cleared the first line. Cost us maybe 30 men. Martinez rallied what was left. "Second line is 50 yards up. Move." We'd take a position, the North Koreans would counterattack and push us back down. We'd attack again, take the same position. Back and forth. Each time, fewer of us making the climb. Each time, more bodies left on the slope. By nightfall on the first day, we'd taken maybe a third of the ridge, dug in under constant mortar and artillery fire. The North Koreans owned the night. They'd probe our lines, try to infiltrate, force us to stay awake and alert. Nobody slept. Just sat in foxholes, listening to movement in the dark, occasionally firing at shadows. When dawn came, we attacked again. The pattern repeated for days. Attack uphill against fortified positions. Take ground. Get counterattacked. Hold or fall back. Attack again. The ridge was maybe a mile long. Took us a month to take it. A month of continuous combat. No rotation, no relief. Just fighting and dying on the same slopes, for the same bunkers, day after day after day. The worst were the bunkers. The North Koreans had dug deep into the ridge, reinforced positions with thick logs and earth covering them. Our artillery couldn't touch them. We had to take each one individually. Get close enough to throw grenades or use flamethrowers or just charge in with rifles and hope. Tommy Chen got killed, taking a bunker on day 5. We'd suppressed it with rifle fire, thought it was clear. He went in first. The North Koreans were still alive inside. We heard shooting, then silence. When we finally cleared the bunker, Tommy was dead. 3 North Korean soldiers were dead next to him. They'd killed each other in that tiny space. He was 20 years old, from San Francisco, wanted to be a teacher. Washington got it on day 7, mortar round, direct hit on his foxhole, nothing left of him worth burying, just pieces. We put what we could find in a poncho and sent it down the hill. That's what you did. Collect the pieces, send them down, keep fighting. The replacements kept coming. New faces every few days, filling the gaps. Most didn't last a week. You'd learn their name, maybe share a cigarette, then they'd be gone. After a while, I stopped learning names. What was the point? The smell was constant. Death and cordite and unwashed bodies and human waste. We couldn't leave our positions to relieve ourselves properly. We couldn't wash. We ate cold rations in foxholes, drank water from canteens that tasted like metal and chemicals, and tried not to think about the bodies rotting on the slopes around us. Because there were bodies everywhere, ours and theirs. On the slopes, in the trenches, hanging out of bunkers. The summer heat made it worse. They'd bloat and burst, and the smell would get even worse. We'd try to bury them when we could, but mostly we just fought around them. Used them for cover sometimes. A corpse is better than nothing when bullets are flying. Kowalski lost his mind on day 12. Just started screaming in his foxhole, couldn't stop. Martinez had to slap him, try to snap him out of it. Didn't work. They evacuated him down the hill. Combat fatigue, they called it. Shell shock, battle fatigue. Different names for the same thing. Your mind breaking under pressure it wasn't built to handle. I understood. Some nights, sitting in my foxhole, listening to mortars fall and men scream and machine guns chatter in the dark, I could feel it. That edge. That moment where you could just let go, stop caring, stop trying, stop being human. Would have been easier, probably. Just break. Let them carry you down the hill. But I didn't. Don't know why. Stubbornness, maybe. Or fear that if I let go, I'd never come back. By the third week, Easy Company wasn't really Easy Company anymore. We'd lost so many men, we were basically a different unit. Martinez was still there. O'Brien had come back from his leg wound, too soon, but they needed bodies. Me, a handful of others from the original group. The rest were replacements who'd arrived last week or yesterday or this morning. We'd taken most of the ridge by then. The North Koreans still held the highest peaks. We attacked them on September 27th. 2 weeks of continuous fighting. 2 weeks of climbing the same goddamn hills, clearing the same goddamn bunkers, watching boys die for coordinates on a map. The final assault was brutal. The North Koreans knew they were losing the ridge. They fought like demons. Every bunker had to be cleared with grenades and flamethrowers. Every trench was a killing ground. They counterattacked 3 times, trying to throw us off the peak. Martinez died on that last day. We were clearing a bunker complex near the summit. He went in first, like he always did. The bunker wasn't empty. We heard shooting, grenades. Then silence. I went in after him. Found him dead just inside the entrance. 3 North Korean soldiers dead around him. He'd killed them all before they got him. Died fighting like he'd lived. Ray Martinez, from Texas, 32 years old. Survived a year of combat in Korea. Died 100 yards from the top of a ridge that would be named for all the men who died taking it. We took the ridge on October 13th, 1 month exactly from when we started. Easy Company went in with 120 men. We came off the ridge with 34. The rest were dead, wounded, or evacuated for psychiatric reasons. The division as a whole took 3,700 casualties taking Heartbreak Ridge, 3,700 men, for a ridge line that was strategically insignificant. The North Koreans just fell back to the next ridge and dug in there, and we'd taken Heartbreak Ridge. And right next to it was another ridge the French were fighting for. They were calling it the Punch Bowl. After that would be another ridge, and another, because that's what the war had become. Not advancing, not retreating. Just fighting over hills that didn't matter, couldn't be held, would be fought over again next month. The war wasn't about winning anymore. It was about attrition. About killing more of them than they killed of us. About holding lines and taking hills and hoping the politicians would figure out a way to end it before we all died on these goddamn Korean ridges. They pulled us off the line in late October. What was left of Easy Company got sent to the rear for rest and refit. 2 weeks of hot food, clean uniforms, sleeping in actual bunks instead of foxholes. I couldn't sleep. The quiet was wrong. I'd gotten used to the sound of artillery, of gunfire, of men dying. Without it, I couldn't relax. I'd lie in my bunk and wait for mortars that never came. Jump at sounds that weren't gunfire. See Martinez and Tommy in Washington every time I closed my eyes. O'Brien was worse. He'd survived his wound, survived Heartbreak Ridge, but something had broken in him. He wouldn't talk. Wouldn't eat unless forced. Just sat and stared at nothing, shaking slightly. "You okay, Danny?" I asked him one day. He looked at me. His eyes were empty, dead. I killed a kid, Sully, on the ridge. He came at me with a grenade, and I shot him. He was maybe 14, just a kid. He was going to kill you. He was a kid. They're sending kids to fight us. We're sending kids to fight them. And for what? We took Heartbreak Ridge. So what? They're still there. We're still here. Nothing's changed except more kids are dead. I didn't have an answer for that. They sent us back to the line in November. New replacements, new faces. O'Brien came with us. He shouldn't have. Anyone could see he wasn't ready. But they needed bodies. He lasted 3 days. We were on patrol, routine stuff. Some scattered rifle fire from a North Korean position. O'Brien just stopped, put his rifle down, started walking toward the North Koreans, hands up. O'Brien, get back here. I was screaming at him. He kept walking. The North Koreans shot him. Not right away. They were confused, thought it might be a trick. But eventually they shot him. He went down in the snow between the lines. We couldn't retrieve his body until that night. When we did, he had a smile on his face, like he was finally at peace. Danny O'Brien from Boston, 18 years old, survived Heartbreak Ridge. Couldn't survive what came after. That's when I realized the war doesn't end when you leave the battlefield. It follows you, gets inside you, changes you into something that can't exist in the normal world anymore. Some guys handle it. Most don't. All of us carry it. My breaking point came in December. We were holding a position, different ridge, same war. The North Koreans attacked at night, heavy assault, trying to overrun our position. We fought them off, barely. Bodies everywhere in the morning, ours and theirs, frozen in the snow in the positions where they died. One North Korean soldier was still alive, gut shot, dying, maybe 19 years old. He was crying, calling out in Korean, probably for his mother, same as American boys do when they're dying. I stood over him with my rifle. Should have finished it. Should have put him out of his misery. That was the humane thing to do. I couldn't do it. Just stood there watching him die slowly in the snow. Took him maybe 20 minutes. I watched the whole thing. Didn't help him. Didn't kill him. Just watched. When he was finally dead, I walked back to my foxhole and threw up. Kept throwing up until there was nothing left. Then I sat down and cried. First time I'd cried since arriving in Korea. I wasn't crying for him. I was crying because I'd become the kind of person who could watch a kid die and feel nothing. The war had turned me into something that wasn't quite human anymore. The war dragged on. The peace talk started, stalled, started again. We kept fighting over hills and ridges, taking them, losing them, taking them again. More names joined the list. Bloody Ridge, Old Baldy, Pork Chop Hill, all of them the same, all of them meaningless, all of them watered with blood. I rotated home in June 1952. 11 months in Korea. Felt like 11 years. They gave me my discharge papers, a handful of medals I didn't want, and a train ticket to Chicago. My family met me at the station. My mother cried. My father shook my hand, proud. My sister hugged me. They wanted to hear about Korea, about my service, about what I'd done. I couldn't tell them. How do you explain Heartbreak Ridge to people who think war is what they see in movies? How do you describe watching your friends die for hills that don't matter? How do you admit you're not the same person who left? It was hard, I told them, but I did my duty. My father nodded, satisfied. He'd been in World War II, figured he understood. But World War II had a point, had clear objectives. We were stopping the Nazis, stopping the Japanese. We were saving the world. Korea wasn't like that. Korea was just existing, fighting to maintain a line that barely moved, dying for terrain that would be lost next week. No victory, no defeat, just endless grinding combat that served no purpose anyone could articulate. I tried going back to normal life. Got a job at the stockyards like my father. Worked there for 6 months. Couldn't handle it. The sounds, the machines, the animals reminded me of Korea. The smell reminded me of bodies. I'd have flashbacks in the middle of shifts. See Martinez dying in a bunker. See Tommy Chen going into that last fight. See O'Brien walking toward the North Korean lines with his hands up. I quit. Tried factory work. Couldn't do that either. Tried construction. Tried driving a truck. Tried a dozen different jobs. Nothing stuck. Couldn't focus. Couldn't care. Couldn't connect with civilian life. Started drinking. Helped with the nightmares. Helped me forget, at least temporarily. Helped me sleep without seeing all the faces of the dead. My family tried to help. Tried to understand. But how could they? They'd never been there. Never climbed those hills under fire. Never watched boys die for nothing. Never had to become something inhuman just to survive. I met other Korean vets sometimes at bars or VFW halls. We'd recognize each other without speaking. That look, that knowledge. We'd drink together, maybe share a few words about which unit we were in, which battles we fought. But mostly we'd just drink in silence, understanding what words couldn't convey. One guy I met, Charlie Morrison from New York, had been at Heartbreak Ridge too. Different company, same battle. We talked about it once, just once. Compared notes on which slopes we'd attacked, which bunkers we'd cleared, which friends we'd lost. You ever wonder what happened to it? He asked. The ridge. After we took it. The North Koreans probably took it back, I said. Or we gave it up as part of the peace talks. Either way, all those men died for nothing. 3,700 casualties, he said quietly. For nothing. Charlie killed himself in 1955. His wife found him in their garage. Note said he couldn't carry it anymore. The weight, the memories, the knowledge that he'd survived when better men hadn't. I understood. Some days I think about it, about just stopping, about not having to carry this anymore, about not waking up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat back on Heartbreak Ridge watching Martinez die again. But I'm still here, 29 years old, can't hold a job, can't maintain relationships, can't explain to anyone why I'm broken. The war ended with an armistice in 1953. Korea is still divided. Men are still dying along the DMZ, and Heartbreak Ridge is still there in North Korea, probably overgrown now, empty, forgotten by everyone except the men who fought there. Except we haven't forgotten. We can't forget. That ridge is still there in our heads, in our nightmares, in every quiet moment when the memories come flooding back. Martinez, Tommy Chen, Marcus Washington, Billy Thompson, Eddie Kowalski, Danny O'Brien, all the replacements whose names I never learned, all the North Korean soldiers we killed, all the bodies we left on those slopes. They're all still there, still fighting, still dying, still waiting for us to join them. People ask me about Korea sometimes, about the police action, about what it was like. It was a job, I tell them. I did my job and came home. What I don't tell them, I didn't come home. Part of me is still on Heartbreak Ridge, climbing those slopes, clearing those bunkers, watching boys die for coordinates on a map. The James Sullivan who left Chicago in 1951, he died on that ridge. What came back was something else, something that looks like him but isn't, something that can survive war but can't survive peace. The war ended 6 years ago. They signed papers, drew lines, called it a truce. But for us, for the men who fought on those ridges, the war never ended. We're still there, still fighting, still dying slowly, one day at a time. Heartbreak Ridge. They named it well. Because it breaks your heart, breaks your mind, breaks your soul, And 3,700 men paid the price for a mile of Korean mountainside that didn't matter to anyone except the boys who died taking it. We took Heartbreak Ridge. And Heartbreak Ridge took us. It never let go. Never will.